Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be painting up the Tyranid Prime from the Leviathan box set. Now I've already assembled it up to the point that it'll get in the way of painting, which is his arms are attached but his wings are not. Apart from that, he's fully assembled. And here's all the paints I used for him. Very few actually. He was a very simple model to paint, but it still took me a week because I kept putting him off because I thought, it'll be done quick and easy and rather play video games. But well, here we are. And, of course, I primed the model with a car primer because it can be used at all times of the year with no issue. I prefer gray, but I only have black currently. Alright, now for the pre-coating, we're going to use Dawnstone, Pallid Witchflesh, and White Scar White. We're going to use an airbrush to apply. With Dawnstone, we're going to apply from the bottom. Pallid Witchflesh, we're going to apply from up above to create light and dark shadows. And White Scar White, we're going to use a dry brush. I use this very soft, springy brush to be able to pick out the details. And so the thing is, because of their skin, or if you can call it that, is very bright with subtle transition of color, I decided to use these very similar Dawnstone to Pallid Witchflesh so that when I apply the color over it, the shadows and stuff will be very obvious. And White Scar White picks out the details. Now with Pallid Witchflesh and Lamian Medium, we're going to create a slight wash that's a bit translucent but still has the white of Pallid Witchflesh. And then we're going to cover all of his white part of his body with it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And now with Emperor's Children, we're going to paint the, I don't know what these are, but these like pink thingies in between his white arms. Alright, with magenta, oil paint, and mineral spirits, we're going to create a wash. We're going to apply it all over the white. And then once it's done, we're going to wipe it away with a makeup sponge. And once it's done, we're going to reapply some more magenta in the wash into some places, and then wipe again. Unfortunately, this was probably not the right color. I probably should have used a darker one, and I do it in the future. But essentially, this step probably could have been skipped because it just wasn't the right color. Alright, we create a wash with Ungor Flesh and Lamian Medium. And then we apply this onto the wings. Because it's a bit too thin, I apply 2 coats until it's a solid color, but you can still see like the shadows and stuff and the highlights between. It's just it was too thin. And then I apply the magenta wash on it again, but I apply 1 coat, wipe with sponge, apply again, wipe, and then some in the recesses or dark areas. Alright, we're going to take lamp black oil paint, mix it in with the purple magenta wash we have, making it very little, like a tip of your brush. And then we're going to apply this over the white skin again and stuff because it's the proper color on the joints and stuff, his ankles, wrists, stuff like that. And then we're going to wipe again with a makeup sponge. Now this was the color we should have done at the beginning. Now with Xerxes Purple and Genestealer Purple, we're going to paint the Chitin. So with Xerxes Purple as the base layer, we're going to apply it all over the plates. Then with a 1-to-1 of Xerxes Purple and Genestealer Purple, we're going to paint like pretty much 80 to 90% of everything except the deepest, darkest recesses, stuff like that. And then with Genestealer Purple Pure, we're going to paint lines along, well, just feathery, just paint straight lines along the edges of each of the plates and inwardly, like stripes. And a little hard to describe along the back, but just where I think they could possibly go. But unfortunately, this wasn't bright enough. This was kind of a redundant set. I probably should have gone from Xerxes Purple to just pure Genestealer Purple and probably a further color. So I'm learning here, trying to find out how to do this right. There are a few redundant steps. I then take pure Emperor's Children and then just highlight all the edges and do feathering onto all the plates and stuff. Yeah. This is very bright because we're going to use a oil wash to tie everything together. I go back to the Land Black in Magenta Oil Wash, and depending on how thick it is, I apply it all over. In my case, I applied 2 coats of this. I applied it, let it dry, made sure it didn't flow everywhere, and then once it was dry, apply a second one, and it tied all the colors together. Alright, with Corvus Black, Dark Reaper, and Pallid Witch Flesh, we're going to paint the nails and claws he has. So he has a bunch of them all over, so I paint all of them Corvus Black. Then with Dark Reaper, I paint essentially the top, the bottom, and basically 90% of every single claw again, except for Corvus Black, like a thin line in it. Yeah, honestly I probably could have just painted Dark Reaper and then paint a thin line throughout all the claws, might have been faster. And then with Dark Reaper and a little bit of Pallid Witch Flesh, I apply this as a highlight on the very tips of the claws, the edges, stuff like that. Alright, with Lamian Medium, Guilliman Flesh, and Emperor's Children, I'm going to paint the mouth and tongue. So essentially, the tongue is already Emperor's Children from a previous step, I just put it on there, but basically make sure it's that. And then with Lamian Medium, mixed with a little bit of Guilliman Flesh with a bit of Lamian Medium, we're going to apply it on his tongue, his mouth, and his surrounding jaw area. Yeah, and then once that's done, well, depending on how far you dilute it, you're going to have to apply multiple coats of the Guilliman Flesh Lamian Medium. And then I just highlight by paint lines, straight lines on the tongue, and then reapply like Lamian Medium, Guilliman Flesh onto the mouth to add appropriate darkness. Now with White Scar White and a little bit of Lamian Medium, we're going to use this to paint his teeth. Now you have to add a little bit of Lamian Medium into the White Scar White just to make it usable, but then I just paint his teeth. Alright, with Ungor Flesh and Dorn Yellow, I'm going to paint his eyes. So with all the oil washes and stuff, some of his eyes basically have been filled with it, but you can still see like the center irises, so the black outline of his eyes is already done, that's fine. So with Ungor Flesh and a tip of a brush, we just tap, 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 fill in his eye with that. Then with Dorn Yellow, as best we can, we do one single tap or one small spot where the center of his eye focus would be, and it worked out pretty well. If you make any mistakes and let it pour out too much, some Corvus Black to fix the dark outlines works. Alright, we're doing some fixes. With Pallid Witch Flesh and Lamian Medium, the wash we did for his skin earlier, it's going to be a little bit thinner this time, so more Lamian Medium. We're going to apply this on all, like, just highlight to bring some more white back to the skin. So the wash was a little bit too much everywhere and made his skin kind of pinkish. The way to fix that would be to load up your brush with a bit of mineral spirits and just like sort of scrape it on the area, cleaning it up. However, I let that go overnight and that is no longer applicable. So, I mean, you could have done it earlier, but this step is just to fix things, so just applying it on places where the light would touch the most to re-whiten some areas to create highlights. Yeah. And with pure Ungor flesh, I mean, watered down a little bit, of course, to make it flow better, we just re-highlight the wings by just painting straight lines throughout it on the most raised areas or folds. That's it. And then we assemble the model fully. And then with AK Interactive Ultra Matte Varnish, I use an airbrush for this and I just apply it all over. Yeah, you can't see the airbrush, but yeah, I'm applying it right now. And done. Well, that really actually wasn't that much work. It was mostly a lot of experimentation, trying to find out what works. I found a bunch of redundancies, a bunch of layers of paint that really didn't matter and stuff like that. Cleaning things up was fine. The washes worked really well. So, I mean, it was a good experimental try. The base is not that nice. It's just like the Biologist's base, but the thing is, though, I'm beginning to see that to have a good base, you need like a mix of, I think, at least 3 different things on a base. Like the dirt, a grass or something like that, and rocks or something like that to make a base more dynamic or more interesting. Yeah, I'm thinking the base needs like 3 different things on it. But, alright, so after looking at him, so he was a good first try. This is actually my first Tyranid I have painted since the Battle of Macragge box set. That goes back quite some time. His chitin and armor looks great, his skin looks great, all the details are great. Re-highlighting was kind of important because some things look a little lackluster in the speed painting way. His face is great, his mouth is great, his eyes turned out wonderful. Yeah, there's just some redundancies here and there that I probably could redo easily, no problem. For the mass hordes and stuff like that. So, alright, okay. Yeah, overall, his base feels like a bit of a detractor because there's no rocks on it. I need to get myself some rocks. I am not buying Games Workshop rocks. I am not paying a premium. His armor looks really good. Actually, it's probably the best thing about him, but it was a lot of steps, and I don't know how much of it really mattered in the end. So I'm going to have to say like an 8 out of 10, just because of his armor and stuff. Some of the skin, the reapplying the highlights and stuff, isn't that good or even in areas. Looks a little wishy-washy, but then again, some of the colors and stuff in areas, it's hard to say. But I'm going to say a solid 8 out of 10 from first glance. Might fall to a 7 out of 10 if you find the right angle or stuff looking at him in a certain way. But, alright, it's a good first try. Yeah, good first nids. Yeah. Alright, so more to come. Like the video if you like the video, share if you want to share, comment if you want to comment, and yeah, more to come. And bye.